The bell above the cafe door chimed softly as Daniel stepped inside, the sound barely cutting through the warm hum of conversation and the comforting aroma of fresh bread and coffee, and for a moment he hesitated, adjusting his grip on his daughter's small hand as if the world beyond those glass doors required a different kind of courage than boardrooms and private jets ever had. Daniel was known everywhere else as a ruthless millionaire, a man whose decisions moved markets and closed deals with a single nod, but here, in this quiet neighborhood cafe, he was simply a father trying to give his little girl a normal afternoon, something she rarely experienced since her mother's passing and since the accident that had taken her hearing 2 years earlier, an accident Daniel still replayed in his mind during sleepless nights, wondering how a man who could buy almost anything had failed to protect the one thing that mattered most. Lily tugged gently at his hand, her big brown eyes scanning the pastry displays with innocent wonder, and Daniel followed her gaze, smiling faintly as he knelt to her level and pointed at the rows of muffins and cakes, silently asking which one she wanted, watching her lips curve into a shy smile as she pointed at a chocolate cupcake, her fingers moving in small, careful signs as she explained something he didn't fully understand. He nodded anyway, pretending comprehension, the familiar sting of helplessness settling in his chest, because no matter how many tutors he hired or how many books he bought, he still felt clumsy in her world of silence, always afraid of saying the wrong thing with his hands or missing something important. They approached the counter, and that was when Daniel noticed her, the young woman behind the register, wearing a simple apron, her hair tied back loosely, her eyes kind but focused, moving with a calm confidence as she served another customer. She looked ordinary in the way that truly extraordinary people often do, and Daniel paid her no special attention at first, until Lily stepped forward on her own and looked up at the woman, raising her hands hesitantly. The young lady froze mid-motion, her expression shifting from routine politeness to sudden alertness, as if someone had spoken her name in a crowded room, and then, slowly, carefully, she lifted her own hands and responded in sign language, her movements fluid and precise, her face softening into a gentle smile that reached her eyes. In that instant, the cafe seemed to disappear for Daniel, the background noise fading as he watched his daughter's face light up in a way he hadn't seen in years, her posture straightening, her hands moving faster now, confidence blooming with every sign she exchanged with the stranger, and Daniel felt something inside him crack, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and a sharp, unexpected pain. He stood there, frozen, as the two of them communicated effortlessly, Lily laughing silently, her shoulders bouncing with joy, while the young woman nodded and laughed with her, responding as naturally as if this were the most normal conversation in the world, and Daniel realized with a jolt that this was the first time since the accident that his daughter was truly being heard by someone outside their small, carefully controlled circle. The young woman finally looked up at Daniel, her hands pausing, and spoke gently, explaining that she had a younger brother who was deaf, that she had learned sign language as a child, that seeing Lily sign had felt like a small miracle in the middle of an ordinary workday, and Daniel could only nod, his throat too tight for words, as he paid for the cupcake and followed them to a small table by the window, where Lily eagerly continued her conversation, signing about school, about her favorite books, about how she loved chocolate but hated loud places she couldn't hear anyway. Daniel watched, silent and overwhelmed, noticing details he had missed before, the way Lily's eyes sparkled when she wasn't struggling to be understood, the way her hands moved with confidence instead of caution, the way the young woman leaned forward, fully present, giving his daughter something Daniel had been unable to provide no matter how much money he spent, effortless connection. Time slipped by unnoticed until the cafe began to empty, and Daniel realized he had been sitting there, doing nothing, for nearly an hour, simply watching his daughter be happy, and when the young woman finally apologized for needing to return to work, Lily's face fell just slightly, enough to make Daniel's heart twist again. He stood, thanked her more earnestly than he had ever thanked anyone, and in a moment that surprised even himself, he asked her name, her plans, her dreams, listening as she spoke about studying education, about wanting to work with children who felt invisible to the world, about taking this cafe job to support herself, her words simple but steady, grounded in a purpose Daniel recognized but had long forgotten. As they prepared to leave, Lily tugged at his sleeve and signed something slowly, deliberately, and Daniel turned to the young woman, who smiled softly and translated, saying that Lily wanted to know if she would come back tomorrow, because she wanted to show her a new sign she had learned. Daniel felt his eyes burn as he nodded, promising they would return, knowing in that moment that this cafe, this chance encounter, had changed something fundamental inside him. Outside, As they walked toward the car, Lily slipped her hand into his again and squeezed, looking up at him with a peace he hadn't seen since before the accident, and Daniel understood, with a clarity that left him breathless, that wealth meant nothing if his child felt alone, that power was meaningless if he couldn't bridge the distance between their worlds, and that sometimes the greatest transformations began not with grand gestures, but with a simple act of understanding in a quiet cafe. That night, Daniel made decisions that would ripple far beyond his own life, decisions to learn, to listen, to invest not just in companies but in people, starting with his daughter, and all because a young lady had raised her hands and spoken a language of compassion when no one else had noticed. And if this story touched your heart, if you believe that small moments can change lives and that kindness still matters in a noisy world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because more powerful, emotional stories like this are coming, stories that remind us why empathy, understanding, and human connection are the true riches we should all be striving for.